Okay, thank you everyone for joining us. This is the February meeting. I can't believe it's February already, but here we are, the February meeting of the MAG Specifications and Details Committee. And we'll go ahead and get started today. And if we start off with our call to order and introductions, is there anyone online that is not one of the regular attendees of the meeting? Is there anyone that is a proxy or anyone filling in that needs to be introduced?
You've got Alex Carter here, who is proxying for Greg Groenberg.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Welcome to our meeting today.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Ryan Stevens, I'm proxying for Kelly Goodrich.
Thank you, Ryan. And anyone else? Okay. And
this is Marty Robbins. I'm the proxy. David, I think it's online, but I'm here. I'm not a member, but here.
thank you, Marty. Did you get the ones that have just phone numbers only already? Okay, we have a few people attending. The names show up just with phone numbers there, and I'm doing my best to see it. But a number that ends in 6483. Who's that with us?
Yeah, this is Matthew Bryan with City of Phoenix Water.
Thank you, Matthew. And then 6146. Do we have someone that is on the phone number that ends in 6146? I mean, we do, but. Okay. Gordon has the roll call sheet up and shows who is present. If you don't see that your name is checked and it should be, let us know.
Hi, this is Arvid Bazooka,
Arvid, thank you.
2841. It's a cell phone.
Marty Crossley with Goodyear's on as well.
Marty. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining our meeting today. With that, I don't think we'll go through specifically and do introductions of everybody today like we did last month. However, we do have a few people visiting with us today. We'll ask them if they can give a quick introduction, and we'll go with there.
Hi, my name's Gary Kirk with Cal Portland Cement.
Gary also has Sydney Wilson here with him from Cal Portland Cement.
Okay.
We have Mark Milani and Teresa Coleman also from Drake Cement. Those are the three cement producers in the state of Arizona.
Fantastic. And they all came today. That's fantastic. All right. And our support. Okay. Very good. And today, David Mobley, are you on today? David?
Oh, there I am. Can you hear me now?
I hear you have some news for us.
Yes. So today will be my official last MAG meeting. I am actually retiring from the city of Surprise at the end of the month.
Well, congratulations. And from what I understand, you've been on the committee for about 7 years now.
Yes.
Well, we appreciate all the time that you've had on this committee. That's actually quite a long time, more than most of us, I'd say, at least many of us. And appreciate all the time and effort that you've put into the committee, the subcommittee meetings that you've participated in, and of course throughout all these years, all the value you've added to each of the cases, and wanted to recognize that and thank you for that time and service.
Well, thank you. It's been a fun time out there. I'm glad to be a part of it. And Robbie will be taking over for full time for the rest of the year. We'll get the paperwork in submitted to Gordon for that. But yeah, no, thank you guys for allowing me to be on it. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
You'll have a 3-comment minimum today, okay? Just to go out.
I'll keep it down.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll go ahead and move on to item number 2. This is the call to the audience. And this is an opportunity will be provided to members of the public to provide input through written comment to the Standard Specifications and Details Committee on items that are not on the agenda that are within the jurisdiction of MAG, or on items on the agenda for discussion but not for action. Members of the public are asked to submit written comments related to this meeting through the MAG website at www.azmag.gov/comment and indicate for which meeting the comment is intended. Comments may be sent at any time leading up to the meeting, but must be received at least 1 hour prior to the posted start time for the meeting. Comments received prior to the deadline will be read aloud during the meeting. Comments may also be provided in person. Comments must not exceed 3 minutes in length. A total of 15 minutes will be provided for the call to the audience agenda item unless the chair of the Standard Specifications and Details Committee requests an exception to this limit. Please note that comments received for agenda items posted for action will be read at the time the item is heard. To attend the meeting by technological means, members of the public may access the link to watch a video stream on the MAG website by clicking on the "This meeting is available to watch online" link provided on the azmag.gov website. Okay, I think everyone in person is here to participate in the presentation, but if there's anything that's not on the agenda that you have comments on, you're welcome to do that at this time. Anybody? No? Okay, Gordon, did we receive any written comments or electronic comments in advance of the meeting?
No comments were received before the meeting.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to item number 3, approval of the January 4th, 2023 meeting minutes. And Gordon has those up. Hopefully you've had a chance to review those. And I know we'll have Gordon scroll through those briefly here. And if you have your copy, you can do so you can look at those. And in a minute here, we'll take motion on the minutes. Okay, are there any questions or comments on the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
It's Craig and Buckeye. Motion for approval.
Thank you, Craig. Is there a second?
This is Warren. I'll second.
Thank you, Warren. And we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. And Gordon, if you want to take us through that.
Okay, starting with City of Avondale.
Yes.
Buckeye,
Buckeyes, yes.
Chandler,
Yes.
El Mirage,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Glendale,
Glendale, yes.
Goodyear,
Yes.
Maricopa County,
Yes.
Mesa,
Yes.
Peoria,
Yes.
Phoenix,
Yes.
Scottsdale,
Yes.
Surprise, Surprise,
Yes.
Tempe,
Yes.
Youngtown. I don't think Youngtown is present. Looks like 14 yes, 1 not present.
Okay, thank you everyone for the action on the meeting minutes. That's the easy one. Now we get to the fun part for the day here. Agenda item number 4, which is the vice chair update. You may recall that last month we had talked through this and there's a desire to replace the vice chair who has formally retired and is no longer on the committee. And so the vice chair position is one that will, in the future years, become the chair of the committee. I represent the east side of the valley this year. So we're looking for someone either central or on the western side of the county as the vice chair to fill in for the remainder of this year as vice chair and go from there. Gordon, do you have any updates? Have there been any volunteers for that?
I haven't had any volunteers from the committee. And I think one of the issues that we have is that a lot of the people that are on the west side are either fairly new or are retiring, as we just heard today, one person. So it's not a hard and fast rule that it must be someone from the west side if someone else is interested. But yeah, we're still looking for someone to fill in that position and who plans to be on the committee for a couple of years so that they can step into the chair position as well.
Okay, at this time, if there's someone on the committee that would like to volunteer for that, I'd be happy to hear it. If there's someone willing to volunteer for that. And if you're not comfortable at this moment volunteering and would like to talk to either Gordon or myself, you're welcome to do that. And alternately, if you feel like there's someone on the committee that you think would do a good job that you would like to nominate, please send that to me, and then I will reach out and contact people for anyone that as a committee you guys would like to serve as the vice chair position. I'll take nominations from others, so we'll see how that goes. Is there any further discussion on the vice chair or questions?
I just wanted to add that it would be nice to have someone in place in case Brian, is unable to attend a meeting. We would need someone to fill in this year as well. So we want to avoid leaving it open for too long. Thank you.
Yeah, until there's a vice chair, I'm feeling all this extra pressure to be here. So I can't get sick or take vacations right now. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item number 5, presentation on 1L Portland Lime Cement. And Jeff and the other members of the industry here that represent the different cement manufacturers that are here to give the presentation. We'll turn the time over to them. And do you guys want questions during the presentation or at the end? How would you like to do that?
Either way.
Turn your mic back on.
Yeah, we have a slide for questions, but yeah, we can answer them as we go along also.
Okay, perhaps if during the presentation, if you have a question that you'd like to ask, you can use the raise hand feature, and then we'll try to notice that and call on you. Otherwise, at the end of the presentation, there'll be an opportunity for questions, and we can go to that point. So we'll go ahead and turn the time over to you guys for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for the time today to present and promote on Portland Limestone Cement. Our goal today is to hopefully get the addition of ASTMC 595 1L Portland Cement added to the 725 Portland Cement concrete specification. Portland Limestone Cement is it's a lower CO2 carbon footprint cement with comparable performance, and hopefully at the end of the presentation that will be clear. Quick agenda. We'll go through a little. I think we've already done a little bit, but we'll do some self-introductions. We'll show the specification verbiage addition for the MAG subsection 72.5. We'll kind of explain and discuss what the exactly ASTMC 595 cement is. We'll back that up with some research that has been done recently. We'll also discuss other DOTs that currently approve type 1L cement. We'll have a slide for links to all the information and additional information that you can look up on your own, and have a little Q&A at the end. As Jeff mentioned, I'm Gary Kirk with Cal Portland. Sydney Wilson is also with Cal Portland. We have Teresa and Mark with Drake Cement, and Jeff Hearn with Salt River Materials Group. So the pros addition to the MAG subsection 725, the next slide here. Up on the right is the current 725 verbiage. We blew it up there. As you can see that you currently accept ASTM C150 type 2 moderate cement, type 3 high early, and type 5 high sulfate. Also, you currently accept a C595 1P cement, which is a underground pozzolan similar to an underground limestone. So it's very similar cements are already accepted. In the top left corner, this is our proposed verbiage. Proposed the addition of Portland limestone cement conforming to the requirements of ASTM C595 for blended hydraulic cement with moderate sulfate resistance, and that would be considered a type 1L MS. So about ASTM C595 cement. ASTM C590 cement is a cement that has been recognized and become very popular lately due to they have 4 designations under ASTM C595: a 1L underground limestone, a 1P underground pozzolan, a 1S underground slag, and a 1T, which is a ternary. The ternary is a combination of 2 of the 3 SCMs, either the slag, pozzolan, or limestone. The reason the popularity is it's a lower CO2 cement, so the carbon footprint is lower due to these replacement levels of clinker with these SCMs, which give you a significantly lower global warming potential on your EPD. So currently, go back one slide. Currently here, this is what you guys currently accept. You accept a pozzolan Portland cement C595 1P. Our goal here is to get the addition of the 1L and the 1T. We'll go through all these cements here. So what is a Portland limestone cement? It's a blended cement ASTM C595. It has a minimum 5% limestone to a maximum 15% limestone. Similar to ASTM C150 cement, which is also known as OPC, but OPC C150 cements, they have a maximum of 5%. So this just kind of picks up with a higher replacement, giving you that enhanced lower CO2 footprint. The Portland limestone cement would be considered 1L under the C595 designation, and limestone sulfate resistance is going to be reported on the mill cert. So here's an example on a mill cert would be a type 1L in parentheses 13 in parentheses HS. The parentheses 13 would designate the percent limestone in the cement, and the HS would designate its high sulfate resistant. So the Portland limestone cement formulation, that top green big barrel, that is considered what you call a finish mill, a finished ball mill at a cement plant. And to the right is a look inside that finished ball mill. Basically, a ball mill is just a high horsepower engine that turns, and the balls, these steel balls cascade. They're charged with different size balls, but these balls will pulverize the clinker, limestone, and gypsum to give you that what you're familiar with, which is a finely ground cement. So the clinker is the product that comes out of a kiln. So you put raw feed that's been targeted for calcium, iron, silica, and alumina. You put that into a high burning kiln at 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. What happens during that high temperature is you get what they call calcination. So you're releasing carbon dioxide. So the CO2 is going out the stack, and you're turning like limestone calcium carbonate has a chemical makeup is CaCO3. When you're shedding the CO2, the carbon dioxide, you're turning CaCO3 into CaO, which is lime. So this lime is getting molten, connecting, configuring with the other oxides that are inside the kiln, and you're getting your target properties that you need for cement chemistry: tricalcium aluminates, tricalcium silicates. This is what gives you the properties to have a hydraulic cement, so something that's going to react and hydrate when you introduce water to it to begin the stiffening, hardening process of concrete. So clinker is the player here that has the connection with the CO2 footprint. So in most cements here, you can see with C150, you have 5% limestone. So you're basically you're going to be looking at say 85% clinker, say 90% clinker, 5% limestone, and 5% gypsum. Gypsum is calcium sulfate. Calcium sulfate regulates the set time of cement. So you're looking at 5% limestone, 5% gypsum with that 90% clinker. That is what gives you a Portland C150 cement. Very similar, the same clinker, the same gypsum, the same limestone. The only difference is for the C595 is the proportioning. So you're going to reduce your clinker factor lower to say 80 to 85%. And you're going to replace that with limestone. The limestone isn't calcined, has a lower CO2 footprint than clinker. Similar gypsum, and you're going to get the same cement that performs the same. The only difference is one has a global warming potential of say, 900 or 1,000, and another one has a 750. So maybe not that exaggerated. You're looking usually about a 10% reduction in CO2, just switching cements from C150 to C595. A ternary blend is also a C595. It's any combination of the following. You could have two blended pozzolans. Pozzolans could be a natural pozzolan and a fly ash, or you have limestone and pozzolan, pozzolan and slag, limestone and slag. It's designated as the 1T. Sulfate resistance and pozzolan limestone slag content noted in parentheses are also reported in a mill cert. So an example here is a 1T P10 L10 HS. It's basically a 1T cement with 10% interground pozzolan, 10% limestone, and it's high sulfate resistant. Again, back to this slide here, same process, same materials, other than limestone. Now you're introducing either a pozzolan or a slag. Clinker is considered one of the products. So you got clinker, limestone, and your third would be pozzolan or slag. A gypsum, again, is introduced to regulate set time, and you end up with a end product of cement that performs same as ASTM C150, 2.5 or the C595 1L. Here's a better visual. You have 4 tables here going through. It's all about the clinker factor. The clinker, so you see C150 has the highest percent clinker. And these limestone, pozzolan, and slag, they're considered what they call SCM, supplementary cementitious materials. They have lower CO2 content and GWP weight than clinker. So whenever you're reducing your clinker, you're getting a cleaner cement, a lower CO2 carbon footprint. You can see you get, if you do a full 40% on the 1P, you can get down to a 60% clinker. The 1L, 80 to 85, depending on how high you take your limestone. But the real thing is the 1T, if you want to start putting 70% slag and limestone, you can get your clinker factor down to 15%. So here's a slide from greenercement.com. This slide here just reiterates it's the performance is comparable on a 1-to-1 basis with ASTM C150 cement. So that would mean like on a typical mixed design, a pound for pound replacement, and you get comparable performance. Tested and proven. It's been used for years, decades for paving projects, and we'll get into that with the OSU report, which really in-depth deep dive on the comparison of the 2.5. Another example of applications and uses: pavement, bridges, foundations, decking, just high sulfate, moderate sulfate, slab on grade. It's comparable for any type of application that type 2.5 is currently used on. Here's a good visual of currently you guys are allowing ASTM C150 type 2 moderate and type 5 high sulfate, as well as a C595 1P cement. Our goal here is to hopefully get the addition of the ASTM C595 type 1L cement and the ASTM C595 Type 1T cement. Comparable performance, lower CO2. So the research. So Caltrans OSU, they did a 3-year study on the impact and use of the Portland limestone cement on concrete performance in plain and reinforced material. This study was performed by Oregon State University. Dr. Jason Weiss headed the study. It was, next slide, please. Some of the topics examined, as I was saying, it's in depth. I think it's 321 pages of research, but they went through ASR, alkali silica reactivity, shrinkage, strength, transport, chlorides, chloride ingress, corrosion, air entrainment, sulfate attack, construction schedules, greenhouse gas emissions. It's just very detailed. All the cements for the Caltrans study were locally sourced out of California. They obtained 5 OPC cements, some type 2, some type 5, 6 PLC cements. I believe they had 2 different levels of limestone replacement, as well as a limestone powder and a natural pozzolan. And they additionally had both coarse and fine aggregates that were moderate and high reactivity and non-reactive. So the full gamut. And they did lots and lots of concrete and a lot of tests. One of the final takeaways on the report was just, again, looking at the, when Portland cement is replaced with Portland limestone cement, you get a 10 to 12% average greenhouse gas reduction. And this 10 to 12% greenhouse gas reduction can be further lowered if, say, at a batch plant or a direct job, if they're trimming the cement content even lower with further replacement of fly ash or pozzolan or slag. Some major findings: OPC compared to PLC and OPC compared to limestone. So the OPC and limestone was just using a type 2-5 cement, and then they weren't intergrinding. They were replacing the cement with some of the limestone powder. And their takeaways were a better degree of clinker reactivity, similar ASR, similar shrinkage, similar flexural strength, similar set time, similar bound chlorides, similar corrosion initiation time, and slightly improved ASR or sulfate attack. Another major findings, PLCs can be used as a direct replacement for OPC. PLC can replace OPC in systems containing SCMs and synergies with alumina, improving performance. They found that the PLC underground limestone, when used with a slag as a SCM, had a higher degree of carboaluminate growth, which gave better strengths and less permeability to the concrete. And they recommended that specifications that permit the use of OPC could also permit the use of PLC, again at a 1-to-1 replacement. And they also mentioned that specifications can be developed to allow for an OPC with a blending of limestone. Also works, but they need to make more specifications to confirm that the size of the limestone and the purity of the limestone is up to speed. Most at the plants, they all have X-ray diffraction and analysis, and they know the purity of the limestone. And when it goes into the ball mill, everything is underground. And so they were just saying it seems to it can be done at a batch plant if you're going to blend limestone, but not quite there yet. So who approves of type 1L cement? Caltrans, after the completion and the reporting of the OSU report from Jason Weiss, Caltrans decided to make a complete shift over to PLC, and Caltrans currently allows for Portland limestone cement on all new projects. And at the time when they did this last year, they allowed for switching over to PLC in the middle of a project. So it was Caltrans, NDOT, and ADOT. They were kind of the holdout here on the West Coast for the last couple years. And this report from Jason Weiss got Caltrans to move the needle for approval. Shortly after Caltrans approved, NDOT followed suit and also approved Portland limestone cement. And also shortly after NDOT, ADOT approved. And so ADOT is accepting PLC for all DOT work. And here's a map, shows the geographics of Cal, Portland, Drake, and SRMG in Arizona. Here's a picture of the ADOT section 1006 Portland cement concrete. You can see the highlighted version there that shows the inclusion now of ASTM C595 1L cement, moderate sulfate. Very similar verbiage that we're asking for MAG to accept today. Here's a U.S. acceptance. Changes have been made to the American Concrete Institute building codes. ACI 318 allows 595 for structural, as well as 301. ICC, AIA, Corps of Engineers, FAA, 45 of the states currently accept. 4 of the 5 are very close to accepting, all kind of up in the northeast corner. Here's a slide that shows some of the information, the Caltrans report, and then the Caltrans presentation, which is won't take as much time to read. It's a little condensed. We also had the American Concrete Paving Association, the Federal Highway Association, and the Greener Cement website, which we included some of the slides from their site today in the presentation. That concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Gordon, did we have any questions from raised hands so far? Okay, well, we'll go ahead and open it up here for questions from the committee for this presentation. Somebody, I've got a lot of questions, but I'm waiting for everyone else. I know other people must have questions.
I think it was just a great presentation.
It was a great presentation, and I think everyone on here is smarter than I am, so maybe they caught it all, whereas I have to clarify some things. Looks like Dan's got a question.
Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, I was just curious. If you said it, I apologize, I didn't hear it, but the workability of the concrete mix with the IL, does the contractor see any change in that at all?
You know, we always try to market this as a comparable product across the board, but we've heard some of the finishing the smoothness and the finishing and the pumpability are actually increased performance compared to 2.5. I think the finer grind with the higher percent of the fineness, I think that it finishes better and it pumps better.
Okay. Also, if you wanted to add an admixture for color or anything, is that impacted at all?
No, it should. I think the cement is 2 points lighter. So the fineness and the limestone, it's a little bit lighter than Portland cement, but very similar. So it takes color very well.
Dan, this is Jeff. One of the things you'll see is, and we've heard that very same thing from finishers, that they actually like the product better. And one of the reasons, and it's, of course, it's what Gary's talked about, is the limestone actually has a tendency to really provide a particle packing kind of scenario where we're actually getting a better solid volume out of the finer ground cement that the PLC is as compared to a C150 cement. And you're correct when you ask the question, what about admixtures? What about using it with SCMs, a fly ash or anything else? You know, how will that be affected? Again, the research shows that that admixtures, high range water reducers, accelerators, water reducers, the various different products that the ready mix guys use will work very well with this product also. Color wise, Dan, you probably won't see the difference unless we put them side by side and probably told you to look real closely. The colors won't be really any different either. They're really very comparable products. And the key is and Gary already mentioned it, is the fact that C150 already is allowing cement producers to intergrind limestone, and has since, I think, 2005. It's been a long time that product that's been allowed. What the Portland limestone cement is just a higher amount of the limestone is now being able to be interground with it, making a new product. The real key, though, is the fact that it reduces the greenhouse gas emissions. It's a greener cement. It's more environmentally friendly. And I know that all the agencies are looking at those kinds of things. And this is a product that has been used in Europe for decades. It's been used for over a decade in Canada, and it's been 6 or 7 years since it's come into the United States and become sweeping across the United States. You could see by the map that Gary showed that all DOTs across the United States have approved those things. ACI, FAA, FHWA. As a matter of fact, you're going to see these things start getting pushed toward agencies. Federal funded projects are going to be asking for these kinds of products, for a product like this to be used. So we're trying to get ahead of that and get that into the specifications ahead of time.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Gary.
Okay, Peter.
Yeah, I've got a series of questions on it. So ACI 318, it's part of that. Are there any design property changes related to use of the cement? In other words, you mentioned it's lighter. Do we have a change in concrete density that we'd be using in design? I'm trying to see what the design component would be if there's a difference.
Well, I think the specific gravity for Portland cement is 3.15. I believe R1L hovers around 3.1, 3.09. So slightly lighter.
Not enough to make a real difference, though.
Okay. Actually, I was wondering if there's a recommended design, like a density that ACI or anybody else would have for this relative to a different cement.
No, it's not been. Again, as Gary mentioned, it's pretty much been accepted as a 1-to-1 replacement.
Yeah, okay, but I understand the strength. Do we have any kind of information on the strength gain over time with this? Is there any data that compares the time-related strength gain?
I believe the fineness of the cement gives you increased early strengths. 1 and 3 days are higher than the C150s. But then at the 7 and 28, they are comparable.
Okay. Now, and in terms of the mixes, I know you're saying it's a 1-to-1 replacement. Have you got any actual mix designs that are being used right now? You say that ADOT's accepting it. Are there some actual mix designs we could look at? So we could do like a side-by-side comparison just to see if there's any tweaking, or is it just they're replacing cement and that's it?
Well, you know that even from cement producer to cement producer, aggregate producer to aggregate producer, ready mix plant to ready mix plant, you know, there aren't universal mix designs to a certain extent. Everyone is going to need to do some sort of tweaking, depend on their raw material blend, what kind of admixtures they're using, gradations, all kinds of different things. One of the things that was done in that OSU study, though, was being a 3-year-long study, they looked at all those kinds of things, side-by-side comparisons. Other parts of the country are starting to use these, and our feedback is that the mix designs are extremely similar. They're very little tweaking needs to be done in order to get very similar, if not better, performance.
So we wouldn't need to make any changes in May.
Yet are producing the product. We're all in the development stage of coming up with it. But I can tell you for a fact that all the cement producers are trying to end up with a product that is extremely similar, if not a little bit better than the C-150 cements that they started with. So I don't really anticipate seeing any real change in it yet. Again, we're trying to get kind of ahead of the market. Now, let me say one more thing too. Being the cement producer that is producing the 1P product that is in the specification. Salt River Materials Group, the Phoenix cement plant there in Clarkdale, has produced a 1P cement for literally decades. It's been over 30 years that we've had a Portland pozzolan cement product that incorporated a percentage of fly ash in it. Our product today is a 1P, what we would call a 1P25. And if you remember the nomenclature that Gary was showing you, that parentheses gives you an indication of how much pozzolan, limestone, whatever the other ingredient is, not clinker and gypsum would be in the product. It's been used very well. It does have a finer fineness in the blade. It is a finer ground product, again, to try to get equal to or better performance that the ready mix producer would do by adding fly ash at the ready mix plant, in addition to his mix designs with Portland cement. But by having one product, it allows them to reduce the types of things that they need at their batch plant. They don't have to have 3 or 4 different silos in order to handle different materials. They can utilize a product like this. And that's kind of what we're moving toward, even the ternary blend that you would talk about. Certainly the ready mix producer could do these things at their batch plant, but by putting those together in a controlled blended product, it allows them to be able to use it through a one silo system.
I guess my concern is really related to the mag spec, where we aren't just truly performance, we have a minimum cement content. And would there be any envisioning on changing that minimum cement content if we added this product to it?
No, we would not recommend that. We would not recommend changing water cement ratios. We would not recommend changing minimum cement contents. And if you look at the other documents that Gary talked about, 318, 301, recommendations from the American Paving Association, from FAA, they have not changed their mix design requirements for minimum cement contents or water cement ratios at all.
My final one I'll throw out is cost and availability. Availability more than cost. Is there any difference in that? And I'll shut up at that point.
Well, we can't talk about cost because we have antitrust things that we can't really talk about.
How about availability, which is really more important?
As I mentioned, all 3 of the ready mix cement producers in the state of Arizona are working on coming up with their version of the 1L product. I would anticipate probably in the summertime or later this year, some of these materials will be available for contractors and for agencies to begin taking a look at. ADOT has approved it last year. One of the reasons they did was because some of the northern parts of Arizona, they actually are using cements from outside the state of Arizona because it's easier logistically for them to get cements out of Utah and from Colorado at times. And both of those states have already switched to 1Ls as being their predominant cement product that's being used. So they had no choice but to go to it. So
I say that because we're seeing
good results.
Yeah, we're seeing that we're getting told by some end users that they're afraid that there's not going to be enough cement, and they're asking us to look for different design alternatives that are less cement intensive for foundation designs.
Well, as Gary mentioned, I'm sorry, Gary, I've taken this over. As Gary mentioned,
you're doing great.
As Gary mentioned, the real key is we're reducing the clinker amount that's in the cement. Clinker is a thing that we're producing at a cement plant. Grinding the cement is usually not nearly as intensive as it is trying to produce a clinker in our mini volcanoes, as I like to say. you know, we're taking rocks and we're turning them into liquid and we're making new compounds out of them in order to make them the kind of product that could be used to glue things back together, right? So by intergrinding these other materials in with them, we are extending without producing any additional clinker, we will be extending the amount of cement that will be produced and available just by a factor of 5 to 10%.
Thank you for indulging me on my questions. Appreciate it.
Problem.
And we are currently making the 1L in California. We do sell that in California, and we also rail that into Utah.
Okay, Peter, you good? Okay. Roy.
Hey, this is Roy, City of Scottsdale. Gary, great presentation. It looks like nearby agencies have already accepted this. I just had a quick question on one of your slides, kind of along the lines of strength that Peter was asking about. One of the slides looked like it had a line on there that said flexural strength plus or minus 20%. I was just wondering, is it
study? I think it was under the OSU report.
I believe so. I was wondering if you could elaborate on that a little bit. Is it that the flexural strength could be lower?
I'm trying to see what slide it is here. That's strength within plus or minus 20.
It seemed like it was somewhere in the center of one of the slides, maybe kind of in the middle of the presentation. I apologize. I didn't get the
That's right there.
the number.
I think it's right there. We found it.
Yeah, yes. Yep.
So flexural strength is with paving. It's a beam that is heavily dependent on aggregate more than cement paste. For instance, smooth river rock does not perform well with the flex beam. You need to have a crushed aggregate to get a better adherence, so you don't have that pull out. Flexural strength was plus or minus 20 of the parent system. I'd have to dig into the Caltrans to see if it was plus or minus.
Okay, I was just curious. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming Caltrans and ADOT have probably taken a pretty close look at this as well. So I'm assuming that if there was issues that they probably would have raised those as well.
I think this was the one that could have been possibly plus. I know Caltrans requires high replacement of SEMs in addition to PLC and with OPC.
The other thing is the OSU study tested a range of limestone contents, as you can see, from 5 to 13%. So this is a generic statement, basically, from that incorporates that range of materials. I think you're going to find that the vast majority of 1L PLC products that you're going to see is going to be around that 10% number. You know, it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to try to produce a PLC with only 5 or 6%, because we're still back. That's C150 cement. That's what we already have. We really need to get to that 10% number before it actually makes much sense to do it. So this is a kind of generic statement that would incorporate, larger. And I think the studies that I've seen from the American Paving Association have shown that it gets equal to or a little bit better, again, because of the particle packing kind of scenario, the density that you're getting out of the finer ground material. You're filling voids with material rather than leaving those air voids in the materials.
Sure. Yeah, because everything else about it seemed like it was positive. That's why that stood out to me. If it was the flexural strength was minus 20%, it didn't seem to be in line with everything else. So that was just a curiosity question. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, I got a few questions. maybe just one, because I think most of them were answered already. So from what I understood, it's looked at as essentially a 1-for-1 replacement with the standard Portland cement we're using today in our concrete mix design without really changing sulfate resistance, without changing strength, without really any significant property changes. I think the question was asked earlier if the mix designs would change, and I heard no, but they still might need to tweak them. But I guess my question, just to help me understand, if I took a standard concrete mix design that I have today, for example, City of Mesa has pre-approved mix designs for various producers. If I took one of those mix designs and I just swapped out the cement that's used and everything else stayed the same, admixtures, aggregate, water content, everything else stayed the same, would that provide a substitute mix design that would perform equally, or would that mix design still need to be looked at and modified and tweaked?
That's a good question, Ryan. All things being equal, I would say it'll perform the same. Now, having said that, ready mix guys are tweaking their mix designs on a daily basis,
Sure.
reality wise. And that's because of the environments we have in Phoenix, Arizona, right? We've got 30-degree temperatures at night, 70 degrees during the day. In the summertime, we've got 90 degrees at night, 115 degrees during the day. They're constantly messing around with those to get that same performance day in and day out. So, but all things being equal, side by side, everything else, I would say, yeah, that they'll perform. Well, every indication we're getting from other parts of the country, other DOTs, and you can see by that map, everybody else in the country is using this. Some states and some have gone strictly to 1L, period. There isn't any other cement available.
Right.
That's it. That's what they're producing.
And certainly the mix designs are based on years and years of experience,
Right.
and those tweaks that have built up over time. And I'm wondering if we would need to see a similar effort on these, or if the type 1L cement was approved, for the 2024 MAG design, would we expect that all the concrete plants could just take their existing mix designs and they're just going to swap out the cement and say, here they are, and expect that we have good results? Or is it going to take a period of time to dial it in, so to speak, to get the correct performance?
Well, you're doing your mix design off of absolute volume. So you have absolute volume going off specific gravities, which is going off water. So the weight of water. So to get that 27 cubic foot design, if you're going to go from a 3.15 times the weight of water to get the weight of the cement, with that specific gravity changing from a 3.09 to 3.14, it could change the weight of the cement by a pound or two. But you have, ASTM 94 gives you, plus 1% variance on a single scale or 2% on a shared scale. But to be absolutely correct, the absolute volume design, you would need to tweak your mix design.
Okay.
But you'd have to do the same thing with the aggregate change. If you change from like a 2.64 aggregate to a heavier 2.8,
Right.
You'd have to change your.
But Ryan, you're talking about a comparably computed mix design side by side kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we
so the
test cements like 3.15 is just the gold standard for specific gravity. It's not always 3.15.
Right.
But everyone just runs that through every mix design, 3.15. Sometimes it's 3.3, 2.13, 3.14, 3.15. It varies also. But
Okay. But it wouldn't be a long process to ensure the mix designs were performing the way they are expected to then.
No.
You're starting with a base that is 99% of the way to where you would ultimately want them to be long-term.
that was all through the Caltrans report and Greener Cement. It's always a 1-for-1 replacement, pound for pound replacement.
Okay.
Comparable.
And I would encourage you guys to go to that website, that www.greenercement.com. That's the Portland Cement Association's website that's just geared to this product. There's lots and lots of information on there. There's some really good video presentations done by a couple of different people that go through the process and make the comparisons too on. And we'd be happy to provide you the Caltrend report too, that 320-page long report, if you really want to look at it. But there's also some, you guys can't see it, but, oh, you can.
Yeah, it's all online too.
It's all readily available there that you can look at, and you can see some of the questions that you're asking and that others have asked, that Peter asked and so on. There are some side-by-side comparisons of mixes and performance and so on and so forth that you can look at.
Okay. My next question, there's been a lot of research perhaps in the recent years about so-called self-healing cement. And from what I've read, it seems like one of the standard practices of that or historic cements that have had longevity is that they've had like lime class in them that has.
You're talking about Roman cement now, aren't you?
Not specifically, but I'm just curious if there's any correlation with, because we're talking about adding lime into the cement. Has there been any research? Does it perform better in the long term from crack prevention or anything like that? Because it seems like it has similarities to those other.
We're not really talking about adding lime. We're talking about adding limestone. Okay. So lime, again, is a product that would have to go through a calcination process, would go through that kiln heating process. Okay. We're talking about the base limestone aggregate material that's being ground super fine. It's not being changed whatsoever except being ground. Okay. So that's really what we're talking about in this particular instance.
Sure.
But I agree with you. I've been reading these same articles and so on, and there are people who are definitely working on what they want to call self-healing concrete. And
Yeah, that caught a lot of people's attention.
it has.
Heating the concrete that hot. We go the opposite. We have a max 158 temperature, so you don't have delayed eternite formation, and you have all these chilled water, and you don't want that concrete to get hot. But that article said the opposite.
Well, keep in mind too. Okay, now I'm going to get on my soapbox. Keep in mind too. One of the things that we have done in our society today is everybody wants it quicker, faster, stronger, right? Because it's all about money. It's all about what it takes to build something, even if it's a street, even if it's a sidewalk. It's all about the cost, and part of that is shutting down traffic and all the things that you have to do in order to do that, right? So our cements today are nothing at all like the products that you're seeing here. Those are very slow setting materials that take a long time to gain their strengths. But that's what was needed. That's what was used, right? That's not what we have today. So we're talking about a completely different kind of animal than the kinds of cements that we have today. And one of the things that we are always concerned about is the higher the strengths that we go, the quicker that happens, the more chances we do have for cracking, because the cement itself becomes brittle at those things, and we have to be concerned about those.
Okay. My next question. I told you I had a handful of questions.
You're the chairman. You can have all the questions you want.
Oh, good. Thank you. And so can everyone else. My next question is, if I saw that the maximum on the type 1L in particular, you indicated the maximum limestone content was 15%. Clearly 15% was established for a reason. I'm assuming degradation of performance above 15%, and I guess that's the question is if going from 5% to 15% seems to have no negative impacts, what happens after 15% that the performance no longer is found to be acceptable or similar?
There's a graph that's used quite often, and it shows X and Y axis, and it shows the limestone addition, and it takes it out for compressive strength. And the other one is, I believe it's a 1202 Coulomb rating for porosity for ingress. And when you go up 4-5% limestone, you get actual strength gain. You have more strength gain than you do without limestone. And then when you start taking that out, and then the opposite is with the porosity. And they cross with the strength. The limestone goes up to about 12.5, 13, and the I gotta pull that graph up. But it's basically it's It's where they intersect. 15 was the sweet spot where you have the most dense concrete for the most less permeable, dense concrete, and then that's right when the limestone starts to directly hurt the strength. But they do have 20s and 30s and 40% limestones in Europe. But we stayed at 15.
This is the beginning, Ryan. This is the beginning.
Sure. So it sounds like at 15,
We will see higher percentages as in years to come. It will affect the performance of the cement ultimately,
I was gonna
but
say, so at 15%, this is where we can have a 1-for-1 swap, but you can still provide a cement at 20 or 30%. But now we are definitely talking about changing mixed designs. Perhaps there's a greater cement content
This
in
is
the aggregate or in the concrete.
This is all
And
part of that
no
pledge
one's-
to be carbon neutral by 2050. I think California went 2035 or 2040.
Yeah.
And
quicker.
yeah, so the Portland Cement Association has made a pledge to be carbon neutral by 2050, which means zero CO2 cement. So I think this is the easy first lever to pull.
Yeah.
The second lever will be no more coal at cement plants, be all natural gas. And I think the lever after that is sequestering all the CO2. But what I hear is to sequester CO2 at a cement plant costs more than to build a new cement plant. So
My last question, I guess, is there's been some holdouts on this, and you said Caltrans and NDOT and ADOT have been slow to accept that they finally have. What are the concerns that have been expressed, whether they're legitimate or not, I guess is not my question, but what have been kind of the concerns that people have expressed that they've been slow to adopt it?
I think just change, something new. But
Unfamiliarity.
unfamiliarity. And I think ADOT, NDOT, they were just waiting for Caltrans. They said, let Caltrans do this big study about 3 years ago, and they were waiting for the study to come out. And when that study came out, even though it was Caltrans sponsored, ADOT and NDOT were they were comfortable with the results of the testing.
Why invent the wheel if you can let someone else do it for you?
Sure. Sounds like a plan.
And there was no hurry for them to make that decision because the cement producers are all working on getting to that point. California is ahead of the game. Other parts of the country are. Utah's already switched. Colorado's already switched. Nevada and Arizona not, but we're in that vein now, getting ready to make those materials. But the reality of it, Ryan, was they just wanted to wait, let Caltrans spend the money, and we'll see how their study comes out.
Okay. I think that's all my questions. Is there anyone else online or do you have?
Ryan, I was gonna
questions?
let you finish because I got most of my questions, I think, were answered. They're kind of bounced around. So I was just they may sound real familiar, but I'm gonna ask anyway. Kind of reaction to fly ash and onto that. Mag's got a 25% SCM allowment for our additives in there. Is there anything that, and I'm hearing the 1-to-1, everything is, very, very similar. Kind of answer my own question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Is there anything that it could throw a red flag for that?
No, I think all the admixtures were tested and they were all deemed comparable OPC PLC reactivity, except the slag actually had improved reactivity with PLC.
And we don't have any slag in Arizona.
Well, I was going to ask that next question. That question to you, Jeff, is this case didn't have the slag, the 1T. So is that going to be incorporated into the case, or is the slag not going to be incorporated into the case?
Well, I'll speak for the other cement producers in Arizona. We all will be following up the 1L very closely with a 1T. And for my company, since I already have a 1P product, I'm already producing a product that incorporates 25% fly ash into it as a single standalone product. It makes perfect sense for me to take that product now and tweak it with an interground limestone and have a 1T product because I already have years and years of performance with that material, right? That's really the next step. That gets us to another point of reducing the greenhouse gas even further because my clinker content is going to be reduced by another 5% or so when I do that. Okay, so that really is the next step. And, you know, places where slag is available, in California, along the coast and so on, that slag's brought in and been introduced. Other parts of the United States, slag products are available. Here in Arizona and some of the Western states, not so much, just because of the logistics. I mean, to get it here, it would be very difficult. It doesn't make real sense. So we probably aren't going to see that kind of product. A 1T product that would incorporate slag into it. We're probably not going to see that in the Metro Phoenix area, the area you guys will be.
Availability.
But the 1Ts that you will see 1Ts that will incorporate natural pozzolan or fly ash and the underground limestone, because those materials are available right here and we could utilize those materials. Now, whether that's at a ready mix plant and those materials are added as standalone single products, or whether that's at a cement plant where those three materials are blended into one product that's used at the ready mix, it's pretty much the same thing.
Yes, slag is a byproduct of steel manufacturing, which is mostly done all in Asia. So they can ship it to some of the ports on the West Coast, but time you double handle it, put it in a rail, bring it out to Arizona, and then try to intergrind it at a plant, it's not effective cost-wise. So
not today. Who knows what tomorrow brings,
Right.
but not today.
Okay. And Ryan kind of touched on it just a little bit, you know, basically 45 of the states are actually using it now. The upper 5 in the Northeast aren't. Do they have a reason as to why they're not? I'm thinking cold temperature, but then you said they're using it in Canada, so that threw that out.
yeah, I think it might be the Northeast politics.
Oh, politics, really? Sorry.
I know that those things never come into play in the real
Never.
world, but
Never.
it's my understanding, our understanding, because we sit in on the calls of national calls that we have of people all over the countryside, Portland Cement Association, who are working on these things. It's our indication from them that it's not because of performance of the product.
Just a slow process.
Well, change resistant. We understand that very clear here. What was the other one? I had one other. One before that. So we can take concrete now and we can crush it back and reuse it as an ABC or anything like that. Any change there? Are we still looking the same thing in terms of reuse?
Mhm.
It's all the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good.
Matter of fact, that would be a great use, probably. It would probably enhance the product by incorporating recycled concrete into. We'd like to see some of that happen in the Phoenix area to be utilizing more of those materials back into fresh concrete applications, not just base material applications. I think it would work really well, actually, because you still have a just like wrap, right? You still have a residual amount of cement that didn't get hydrated that's going to be in that recycled concrete, and it's going to perform well when you get it into a concrete mix. So that's been our experience.
But in a question I asked to a lot of the presentations that I have, you know, here, even in our city, is everything's got a downside. Is there a downside to this material? I mean, I'm not holding anybody responsible for it, but there's always a downside. There's always a, you know, yeah, we're going to hold it at 15% because 20% we get failure rates, or I know that wasn't the case, but what are some of the downsides?
It's different.
To me, that's a good side. That's
Well,
positive.
for a lot of people that don't move my cheese, right? It's gonna be different. I don't see one. I haven't seen one. It's good for the cement plant because we'll be able to produce a little higher quantity, which our marketplace wants. It's going to be good for the environment because it is going to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions involved with it. And we're all moving that direction, trying to find better ways to keep the performance of the products up, but also try to be greener, try to do things in a better way. I don't see that. I'm sure there will be at some point. There may be something, but we don't really see it. And based on experience from other parts of the country, no.
That's all I got. Sorry, my list was about as long as yours was.
Okay, last chance for comments. Anyone online or questions?
I got a quick question, and you probably have answered this already. Is this a proprietary product?
No, it's an ASTM stand. That's why in the mag specifications, we're putting in ASTM C595 requirements. It's not a proprietary product. It has to meet the ASTM standard.
So anybody can make so the formulation is not a secret.
No. Well, let me say this. Each cement producer is probably going to have their own formulation of the product, but it still has to meet the ASTM standard specification.
No, I mean, this specific product that you presented.
No.
The formulation of this specific product, is this something that's specific to the product? Can anybody make it?
Any cement producer could make it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no more questions, we want to thank the whole group here. Gary, right? Yeah, Gary and Jeff in particular. You guys came prepared with a lot of information, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And Jeff, I'm assuming we'll look forward to having you introduce the case in a future meeting.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we will have, we'll probably present a similar presentation at the next working group meeting, maybe not as long, I don't know, kind of thing, because there'll be a different group of people there, other staffs amongst the agencies who will be interested in this too. So we'll do something similar at the next working group meeting, and from that we'll develop the case information and present it to Gordon in this month, so it'll be part of the next packet for March 1st.
Okay, thank you very much.
Also, if anyone wants to refer back to the presentation, it wasn't included in the packet, but it is posted on the MEG website now.
Thank you, Gordon. Okay, let's move to our next agenda item. Let's see. Agenda item number 6, case 22-15, which is to add new subsection 718.4 solar reflective coatings and add reference to it in section 334. This is a carry forward case from last year. And I know last week, I think there were a few questions and I think Kelly said he was going to need to go back and get some additional information, but we'll go ahead and ask Kelly if there's an update that you want to present first on this, and we'll open it up to questions or comments.
This is Ryan Stevens. Kelly's not on the meeting right now, but we did go to the working group and answer some additional questions. I know I provided Kelly, I think an email, some answers to questions that came up last time. So I'd be happy to, if there's still any questions, I'd be happy to answer those as best as I can.
Oh, thank you, Ryan. And are you the one that's, I don't know if it's the sponsor or whatever, but are you the one that's most involved for City of Phoenix in this? Or is that someone else? It is you.
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone on the committee have questions for Ryan while he's with us on this case? I know there were a handful asked last meeting. I don't remember what they all were, though.
Hi, this is Warren. Just one. Thanks, Ryan. Just one quick question referring to your response back from the delamination question that was asked. So what I gather is that if this coating is applied, that means any future maintenance treatment is not going to, would not be able to be applied successfully, or did I read that wrong? So if you have to treat the pavement with a slurry or crack seal or something like that, it may not sufficiently seat on top of that product.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I can't say I definitively know the answer to that, because we've only been treating and using these types of products since 2020. And we expect the product to have about an 8-year life. So it's at that point that we would expect to need to be able to either retreat or use an additional treatment. Our delamination issue, was two products of a different enough chemical composition that we believe kept it from being able to adhere to each other, and they were put down within months. If it had gone through a whole winter and summer cycle, that the result may have been different. We don't have empirical evidence to answer that definitively, but we expect, like other seal coats and slurries and things like that, there's a certain amount of time where you don't treat subsequently in a short period of time until it oxidizes, until it starts to wear down. So we can't speak to long-term retreatment, but it's really a specific case where we had this elimination of two different products. We haven't had any issues when these types of products are directly on the asphalt surface.
Thank you.
And following up with that question from Warren, I guess I would ask, the city of Phoenix created a specification, and based on your experience, in particular with this one instance where there was maybe some delamination, has the city looked at any modifications to the specification, or do you feel that the specification is still appropriate and adequate, that no changes are needed, or just haven't decided yet?
We haven't looked at revising the proposed specification. Again, I think the only thing I could perhaps think of is that it should be done on base asphalt surfaces and not on top of other coatings. But again, we don't definitively know that, so we haven't looked at any revisions at this point.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this case or any comments on this case?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I got a couple comments. Ryan, I think I went by one of the neighborhoods you guys applied this. I think it was around Dunlap and Central 7th Street. Is that one of the neighborhoods this stuff is down already?
Yes, I believe we are around there, south of Dunlap and east of Central.
So one thing that caught my eye was interesting. At a certain angle, driving on these streets, I got some significant glare off the road where I had to put my sunglasses on. I should have had them on anyways, but it was like, wow. Have you got any complaints on that, on the glare? Like I know people have driven in a certain time of the day on the freeway, and have issues, or rain or something. But I just noticed that it was causing me, or I just noticed a significant glare off the surface. I don't know if that's a certain time of the day or a certain angle, but it really stood out to me. And I just wondered if that has been a consideration, or if you've gotten complaints on that.
We definitely have received those types of comments, usually closer to the install when the product is its brightest. It does take a few weeks for it to cure out and get its most, matte finish. But glare, as you mentioned, you can get glare on the freeway at certain times of the day. If you're out doing a fog seal or something, you can get glare. So it's just a phenomenon that is not unique to this type of coating. Any type of seal coat and different materials could produce glare at specific instances of the day. So it's something we have gotten comments about. And I guess that's the best answer to your question, is we have gotten comments about it, but it's usually right after the install.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would just suggest it to people to go out and look at this stuff on the ground and see. You can see where it could help, and then you can see some other issues that might cause. So just get out and look at it, and you'd be surprised. What getting out in the field is a good thing. So thanks, Ryan.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Ryan. We appreciate your time and responses to those questions. We'll move on to agenda item number 7, case 23-01, miscellaneous corrections. We talked about items A and B in our last meeting, And unless there's any questions or comments on those, we can certainly talk about those. But I think item C is a new one for this month, which is to remove reference to the manhole steps in section 605.4, 610.8, and table 771-1. So a few years back, the MAG specifications were updated so that there are no steps included in sewer manholes any longer. And there were some remnant references in the specifications to steps. So this case, or this item of this case would be to remove the associated wording on those. So Gordon's got those up now, and we can look at those if you'd like to do that.
This is Warren. The main reason we removed the steps from the sewer manholes was because of the corrosion. Is removing from storm drain, is that more of a safety issue for OSHA and things like that? I'm just trying to get my mind around that one. Because I think there may not be, obviously the sewer gases are what caused the main issue in a regular sanitary sewer, but the storm, I'm not sure, have other agencies have issues with the existing steps for maintenance or service?
Yeah, Warren, it's Craig. When we did this case, the thought was that exact point is, it's not really a safe environment for somebody to put all their weight on and crawl down. But as we worked through the case, I believe it was also talked about that, contractors, they don't trust steps any longer. So even if there is a step there, they will put a ladder in the hole.
Okay, thanks, Craig. That makes sense.
And just to be clear, I don't think that we have steps included in any of the details any longer. So these are just remnant references to steps associated with those manholes.
Warren, this is Arvid.
Go ahead, Arvid.
And just another observation, another angle on that. It's not legal to be going down in a manhole without a tripod and a body harness and air monitors doing all the checking regardless of the use of the manhole. The steps, as was mentioned earlier, are in today's world with all the safety equipment that we put on the individuals going in the manhole, they're almost another safety risk. So getting them out of the way aids for ladders and the harnesses and the tripods to go in. Anybody that's going down into a manhole without a tripod and a two-person team above ground is already in violation of OSHA. So it's one reason to move away from them.
That makes sense. So it's just an archaic reference. I get you. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. It's something I grew up doing when I was 5, but today's world, you can't do it anymore.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Well, if there's no other questions or comments on this item of case, the miscellaneous corrections case, we can certainly revisit it next week if you haven't had a chance to review those. They are included there for further review, and we can discuss again in the following month. We'll go ahead and move on to agenda item number 8, potential new cases for 2023. And we already had talked about the potential on the concrete, or I'm sorry, on the cement. And I guess if there's any other new cases that are ready to be proposed, we can talk about those at this time.
Hey, Ryan, I had just sent an email to Gordon. I don't know if Gordon, if you received that, just a potential case I was going to present to see if there's interest.
Hold on, I'm not sure if I can check my email from the room down here, but
if not,
go ahead and talk about it. And
yeah, it's basically modification to the standard curb, kind of a hybrid between a single curb and a type A mag 20 curb. We call it a deepened curb that the streets group has forever wanted to look at a different type of curb than using the single curb on medians, something that's easier to pave up against, easier to mill up against, more consistent grading of the pavement along that matching normal curb and gutter line versus a single curb that you might have variation on the pavement along that curb face. From what I can tell, it looks like this is something that has been in ADOT for this type of curb has been in an ADOT detail for quite a while. So I'll be adding it likely into Chandler. We're going to be using it on our Lindsay Road project. Again, this would just be for medians. I'll give you a second to rotate it. Sorry about that. I should have checked that before I sent it, Gordon. I apologize. Just right click on those.
Control Shift Plus.
If you select those and right click on them, Gordon, you'll get that option to rotate.
That's what I thought. I'm just not getting it.
Oh, that's weird.
I think it's because it's reader.
Oh, I don't have the full Acrobat on this machine.
Well, that's no fun.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, good. Awesome. So this would be, like I said, more of a hybrid between a normal single curb, MAG 222, which, as you can see, is a deeper curb. And traditionally, I think people like the deeper single curb along medians because that allows for more depth and more protection from the landscaping, irrigation in the median, and then protecting the subgrade in the pavement section of the road. So this modification, we've had discussions on different widths. This one here is an 18-inch width. So you have kind of a 6-inch gutter pan area. I believe this is what we're going to be using again on our next capital project for Lindsay Road. And I think other agencies have done single curb on medians along with the standard curb as well. But if you go to page 2, up on the upper left, this is the ADOT detail. You can see that single curb type A. Although the geometry is different, but this, you can see how it allows for more of a deepened option there too. 1.5 foot deep type A1. So it's not unusual, I guess, if ADOT's been doing similar types of details. So just putting it out there, if there's any interest in other agencies having this option in MAG, I could go that route and add it as another type to 220. So that's the proposal.
Okay, thank you, Warren. I don't know if anyone has comments. If you'd like to see this as a proposed case, you're welcome to chime in now. Okay, no questions or comments on that, Warren. I think something that we can definitely look at, and maybe committee members need to go back and see if there's any interest from their agencies in incorporating a new type of curb. It sounds like this one is more intended for medians specifically, although it wouldn't be limited for that use, I'm sure. Maybe there's some conversations that people can have about whether alternate curbs for the medians would be beneficial, and we can revisit that in the coming meeting.
Perfect. Thank you, Ryan. Yep, I'll wait for comments. Otherwise, like I said, I'm open to either route. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we will go on to working group reports here. And I'm sure that as we go through working group reports, there might be some discussion of other future potential cases. And we can go ahead and do that unless there's any other cases that someone would like to bring up that weren't part of a working group report.
I do have a question from Glendale. Regarding MAG 321.8.5, which is the smoothness specification. Is there anything in the working group at this point for smoothness that addresses the 12-foot straight edge? The reason why this comes up is we're starting to do IRI testing on some of our roads, drivability. We looked through MAG. We don't have any supplements to this for smoothness. We looked through MAG and we see the 12-foot straight edge, and it's pretty challenging to do on 3 miles of roadway or even a mile of roadway that's 4 lanes wide. So we kind of wondered if anybody else, if any of the other municipalities had supplement specification. It'd be the 321.8.5. See if anybody else is using IRI or any other methods for profiling or for rideability. I don't know if this is a question, if this is something that should go to the working group or if this is something I should bring up now.
Yeah, so certainly you're welcome to bring this up as a discussion item. And we have our working group reports will happen here, and then we have a general discussion item. So these types of things can definitely come up as a general discussion. You may get a more targeted audience at a working group, that maybe some members attend that working group that have more familiarity and maybe a better target audience to ask the question. But certainly this is an appropriate audience also. I didn't hear anyone comment whether they have a different standard or whatnot. And certainly people are welcome to do that. But yes, it's appropriate to bring up the question here or at the working groups also.
Okay. Yeah, if anybody has
rideability is definitely a good topic to discuss. That's kind of relates back to that median curve that I brought up. That's one of the aspects Streets has brought up, is the rideability and looking at rideability at the end of projects. So I think that's a good topic. Thanks.
Okay. So how can I find out if any of the other municipalities have supplements without going through all of their engineering standards, but supplements to smoothness in particular?
Yeah, that's a hard question. I mean, essentially, you can ask this committee and everyone can go back if they remember to and are willing to find out what their city does and provide some feedback. But there's no exact way to do that without actually just going through and checking every city by city what people's standards are.
Is that something this team is willing to do?
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to get a whole bunch of responses from everyone right now on that, but certainly I think it's a great request. And those that are on this committee, that the request has been, if you have any standards, if you could send them to Glendale, I'm sure they would appreciate that.
If not, we're going to look at adding it into our supplement standards. So, but I'd hate to do that if somebody else or majority of the other municipalities are doing something for rideability. So thank you for the opportunity to bring this up.
Sure. And as up on the screen here, you'll note the different contact information is here that you're able to access also, or reach out to each member of the committee and talk to them individually about what their city may do.
Yeah, I just pulled this up from our committee page. There's a link to this list of all the agency supplements. So if you are talking to someone in Avondale or whatever, and you want to see what their specs are, you can go to whatever links on there to find their supplements.
Yeah, we haven't, we have a supplement, but I'm almost certain we don't address this specific item. I know we've dealt with it in the past and we just been using that same mag spec that you referenced already, the 12-foot straight edge. And, you know, there's some, you know, subjectivity that goes in that when you're using that. So I applaud your intentions to try to maybe get more specific spec on this. Cause I think it could be refined some more.
Thank you.
Somebody's got to have something out there, hopefully more. So
I'll email the group. I'll follow up with an email to the group then and see if they're willing to look into their standards and provide
Right.
anything specific. But I'll update you on what direction Glendale decides to move, whether we want to bring it up with MAG to have it looked at as changing, or if it's something we're going to do as a supplement.
Okay, thank you. Let's move into our agenda item number 9, working group reports, and we'll go ahead and start with our water sewer working group.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we met on, we did a hybrid meeting on January 17th. Kind of was a quick meeting. We just kind of rehashed what we're going to look into, or basically what we started last year and what we want to hopefully finish or make significant progress on this year. You know, those being the, we're working with Arvid on the, you know, detail 212. That'll probably be, you know, it all seems like we're modifying that every year now. So, so we'll see what we can do on that with the materials. The other item was that brought up last year. We want to try to get maybe a case this year as a PEX-A pipe material for water services, you know, as an alternate to copper pipe. It seemed to be well received. So everybody's PEX, looks like it's been pretty well tested on the private side. So I guess there are agencies in the country that are now using it in the right of way with success. So the only concern we have is traceability of it. And so, but apparently, you know, they have a material that has an integral wire in it. I'm not sure yet, but that's something we're going to look into. The other one we want to maybe expand on is sewer testing for video and getting some more standards with that. There is a really loose national standard that we might look into, try to incorporate that into MAG. We had some representatives from Nina Foundry looking to maybe present some information on redesign, refining the manholes and frame and covers. You know, new engineering that might make it, you know, less without the ribs, maybe make them lighter and weight. The other thing I brought up in our working group was our public works department approached us and with an interest of maybe utilize or looking into an alternate water pipe that's AWWA approved. It's a C909. Some of you may have heard of it or worked with it already. So we might want to see if we can add that, discuss it, and if people want to use it as an alternate, we might want to add that to the 700 section, like we've done with the storm drain pipe in the past. So, and we again had some general discussion with Mr. Harrington about the manhole steps, which we already got a case in the bloopers, minor adjustments. So anyways, we hope to, you know, get back into these cases and make some progress and bring them forward as a case, formal case, I should say. Now, our next meeting will be another hybrid meeting, February 21st at 1:30. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Let's move on to our asphalt materials, concrete working groups.
We had our last meeting on Thursday, January 19th. You have copies of the notes in your packet. As we've already talked about previously, case 22-15 on the reflective coating. There was some discussion about that. It's been, and Ryan's gone over it again today with some additional things. We did talk about some potential new cases. Again, item A, we've had the presentation today on the 1L, and as I mentioned earlier, we'll probably do a similar type of presentation to the working group on that product, because it'll be some different individuals. Item B, there was some conversation too about the use of fiber reinforcement as an alternative to steel in some of the mag sections. When we redid 725 a couple of years ago, we put a line in on materials for fiber reinforcement and the ASTM spec that it should meet, so that we had something in mag if people wanted to start using fiber reinforcement in some of the concrete. Contractors are telling us that they're having difficulty getting the material. They're having difficulty with workmen and installation and those kinds of things. And so we thought that maybe we would pick relatively minor application and try to see if we could get it introduced into the details and specifications for that. So we just kind of picked catch basins. Brian Gallimore and I will be working on trying to potentially come up with a case on that to try to move that forward, again with the intention of trying to utilize more of the fiber reinforcement to take the place of wire mesh steel reinforcement and those kinds of things in certain applications. Item C, we have had conversations off and on with individual cities, but particularly with the city of Phoenix and with Mesa about here recently and probably continuing to go forward. There's been at least some concerns, if not some definite reality of having issues with some of the materials that come into the valley, particularly different kinds of asphalt formulations come in by rail. There's been some rail issues recently that has caused some concern about some of those products might be unavailable for a period of time. So the asphalt industry has kind of been talking back and forth about coming up with a 1 or 2 point type of check system that if we got to a situation where a particular brand of asphalt grade was not available, we could potentially substitute another brand of the same grade without having to go through the full formal mix design process kind of thing. Alex Carter, who actually happens to be substituting today, has brought this up and we'll be taking a look at potentially making some revisions to section 710 that would allow that in certain situations. So that's going to be on the horizon for us also. I think that some of the City of Mesa staff have expressed an interest in potentially helping to sponsor that. So we'll see how that goes going forward. Alex also brought up another issue with slurry seal aggregate gradations. There were, again, and a couple of years ago when there were some changes made to section 715. There was another column added to 715.1 on production tolerances with a note at the bottom of that table. That was also included with your notes from the committee meeting, so on. We've now been finding that those tolerances are so small that it's the nature of the slurry seal material being a full gradation of material and usually a pretty dry product. We have a lot of potential segregation that happens even from one side of a stockpile to the other. We can find that we're outside of those product tolerances, even though we're meeting the requirements of the gradational requirements, so on. So we end up having to have different sets of mix designs for different contractors on the same stockpile of material. So we're thinking of trying to do some modifications to that, to going back to number one, trying to figure out why did we put that column in the table in the first place, and what could we do now that we've now actually been using it. It's causing, I think, more problems than it would have solved. So that's another issue that we're looking at. And I think that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Our next meeting will be February 16th at 1 p.m. and it will be virtual only.
Okay, thank you. And our next group, outside right-of-way working group.
Well, thank you very much. We had our meeting on January 19th. It was very well attended. We had quite a few new people participating. So I decided after everybody introduced themselves, we'd give a background to the outside right-of-way group again, so people would have a good understanding of what we were doing, where we were going, and how we were going to get there. Before we finish, Gordon, are you going to have an opportunity to talk about the landscape detail article that went out? Did you plan to talk about that later?
Yes, it's on the agenda for later, but I can.
Okay, no, that's okay. I just want to make sure I hadn't gone all the way through that. So we'll get to that later then. So the new cases that we're working on, we've been working on the vegetated rock bioswale section. It is very close, but we're having some challenges on getting that finalized with obviously needs of people to keep continuing on their work. So I'll be reaching out to see if some other folks can on the committee and the working group or others can handle bringing that one to the finish line, so we can get that one to you in a very short period of time. Again, I think we've got all the comments in there. Similarly, spillway or scupper, if you want to call it that, detail, we had some draft concepts. We need to get some drafting done. It's that piece between the silt basin that we had before and the street, and showing what that piece that goes in right there. We need to get that done so we have a complete connection from one end to the other. Again, I'll be reaching out to others to maybe help on that one. We do have some examples. We can scroll on there. We move to the next page. Yeah, and I just talked about being able to do that. The one that we're working on most intently right now is the detention tank criteria. Keith Kesty with the City of Phoenix has been hard at work. He's looking at some different options. We talked this last meeting more specifically about thermoplastic underground storage tanks. And he's put together kind of an updated or a draft detail that we could actually start working through. In the meeting, we actually did go through that version of it, looked at some of the notes and how that would need to be changed. So he's going to be working to get that one changed. ADS, who is attending our working group, is also going to be providing some input on that and looking at other products. So our goal is, I don't think we're going to have it ready next month. I'm thinking probably March or April, we should have that one ready to go and bring it to the main committee on detention tanks. That'll incorporate existing detention tanks and the new products that are available. Next one we talked about is resurrecting the dry well standards. I pulled some of the ones we worked on a couple years ago. I'm going to try to reach out to some of the dry well vendors and see if we can get them to give us something to where we can identify whether we're looking at things that are too product specific to a vendor, or are they generic enough? And again, ADS said they would start looking around to that, and we'll start putting something together for the dome structure outflows also. So those are the ones that we're actively moving forward. Again, I don't think we're gonna have anything in the next month, maybe 2 months. We're looking down the line to get those in your hands, at least the first ones. Other topics we talked about, and this is the one I really want to start bringing up. I don't want us to go down a rabbit hole and have the committee not want us to be even looking at that. And the main one is the thermoplastic body PVC catch basins. The Water and Sewer Group had looked at this, I think, a few years ago, but it was for right-of-way use. Now we're looking at it in terms of outside of right-of-way. And so ADS had brought that forward again as a potential option. And I think, again, we're talking parking lots, not street use. Again, libraries, city buildings, golf courses, things like that, recreational areas. And so I wanted to get kind of a feel from those who are on the call here right now, if that was something that still was desired. I think we're seeing it, at least on the private side, quite a bit. And I think City of Phoenix mentioned that too. And again, we're talking outside right away. So I wanted to see, is there any opposition to us looking at bringing those back in? Or two, do you know, or would you like to see something like that brought in? Do you see a need for that? So I'm kind of opening it up to discussion right now with the committee, if anybody's got any opinions toward those.
Hey, Peter, this is Warren. I think the more options, the better, as long as they're viable. That's what we're here, and we've updated our approved products list recently here. You might want to look at that to see what we've expanded it to for retention systems. But yeah, I'm open to that.
Okay. Yeah, again, I didn't want to have to go start going a direction and find out that there's really not an interest in doing that and have ADS do all that work, and all of a sudden we're putting a halt to it. So you don't have to, if you don't know right away, if you want to send me an email note, that would be good on your druthers one way or the other. But I think we'd like to pursue it. It's a fairly mature technology now compared to when we were looking at it before. I have some concerns over the apron system. So I do think the concrete aprons do need some form of reinforcement, and I'll be pushing that with ADS a little bit. From what I've seen, that's where issues have been, where you get those corner breaks, you get those 90-degree turns, and the crack coming, propagating from those. So, and there's some standards that I found on those. So we'll go ahead and push that, and we'll talk about that in the next meeting a little bit more. The other ones we're considering are related to storm water harvesting basins that would go hand in hand with some of the stuff that we're already looking at in the vegetative bioswales, except pulling that out as a separate one, and also infiltration trenches. It's currently not got a detail, but I do have details. In my prior life, we did use those, and I know those are being used to improve these catch basin percolation rates. Call it a poor man's dry well, and they don't generally go very deep, but they do improve storage capacity within existing catch or detentions, and also improve the ability to get head pressure to push that down faster. I think they're very simple solutions, so I think we're going to move forward with that. The last item I think we had brought up were the gabions, and ASU had brought that up because they've been seeing more and more of that. Well, Gordon brought up the fact that the existing detail in MAG, which is more of a mattress type one, is very dated. Currently, you're seeing more of the baskets themselves as opposed to the mattress form type system. So we're going to be going out to the architectural community and I'm going to approach the hydrologic consultants and see how often they are designing those types of systems. And if so, I think we're going to go ahead and start working toward updating that one to be something that's a bit more, not the mattress type, but the actual stacked gabion systems, and have the construction details. And for that, it's not a design component. It's really how do you put those things together?
Hey, Peter, do you need a detail for that? We have one that was used on a plan that I had to dig up a few years back, but
yeah, if you've got something, send it. Yeah, we'd love to look at that. I've got some older ones sitting around also, and then again, we're going to go to the architectural community and see what they've seen going around. Anything you got, send to us. Appreciate it.
Hey, Peter, along the same lines of your dry wells on the outside of right of way, are you looking at anything as an alternate to not using a dry well, to say like you've got a high water table where they're not going to work? Does that come up in your discussions?
We hadn't talked about that in terms of the design component, but I think that's where the infiltration trenches are far more handy to use, and they're cheaper, simpler. You can put that in. If you have a high water table, it doesn't hurt you as bad because you're really only going down feet as opposed to tens of feet in putting a trench and filling it with rock. So we hadn't talked about the alternative. That is an alternative, but it effectively is an alternative to a dry well.
Yeah, because we've had some of the development design engineers come up with their own designs. They call them trench drains. Basically, it's just perforated pipe with rock, like you said, in a horizontal trench.
Yep.
Just to dissipate the water,
Correct.
keep it underground, but it would be nice to have some kind of maybe a standard to address that as well.
Yeah, that's what that infiltration trench concept is. That's exactly right.
Okay.
And we thought there'd be a desire for something like that. Again, I've seen them used very effectively. A number of people in the working group had seen them also. I said, well, why don't we put that on our list? We just got to get somebody to volunteer to work on it. But I think right now, if we can just put together prior ones that have been done, if somebody's got a detail they've seen used prior, it'd be great, send it to us. And that'll get somebody a starting place. And then I just have to recruit a volunteer to get moving forward on it.
All right, I'll send you some of the details that we've used on some of our larger developments down south. Towards our Trace Rios area, that ground table is pretty shallow, and so the dry wells just aren't effective. So we've had to come up with something different. So I'll send you that just for your information.
Yeah, I know of a large project when I was at SRP we did off of I'm trying to remember, it was Baseline, right next to the Gila River, the confluence there, 119th Avenue, at a substation where we were having that specific issue. The groundwater table is only about 18 feet and percolation was becoming a problem. So we use these infiltration trenches to improve the ability to get rid of that water.
All right, good, cool.
Peter, one comment on that. I'll send you, it just reminds me, our environmental manager had sent us out some information on some new changes where if a French drain system has a certain depth versus width, then in the future that would have to be registered as a dry well. So
yeah, if you could send me that. I wasn't aware that they had started looking at that they're considering those dry wells. They'd really most often been very shallow. The width, it's actually better to have a large width than a small width if you can do that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice because you get high void ratio cobble, if you want to look at it that way. You put high void ratio cobble in those, and it gives you an area below the ground surface that you're actually storing water in. It helps with vector control immensely, and it does improve percolation. Well, yes, send me anything you got on that. We could, again, although we're not doing design, we do want to make sure we don't have something that violates a standard. And the last one I wanted to bring up was the idea that we are now actively getting into these supplemental details that are really outside right of way. The landscape group would like to also start looking at outside of right of way landscape stuff in addition to the stuff they worked on. So I think we're to the point we need to have a discussion on how do we make this, what is this book supposed to look like? We're going to have details this year. We've been able to kind of get them in the existing mag most of the time, but I think we've run out of ones that are just, that can be classified as in the right of way. We're really now into the outside right of way stuff. We got to come up with some format. So maybe we can put this as a discussion item at the next mag meeting, and we can work through this.
Okay. Thank you, Peter.
Okay, I think that's pretty much it. And Gordon's going to talk about some of the news press release stuff later. Thank you.
Okay, excellent.
When our next meeting, I'm sorry. And our next meeting is also on the 16th of February. That's going to be a virtual one, but we are going to shoot for March to have a virtual hybrid meeting. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. Our last working group is the Phoenix supplements to MAG. It sounds like Kelly is not attending today. And from last month's meeting, we talked about this is going to be a long process for them. If someone wants to provide an update, that's okay. We can certainly have it. Otherwise, we'll defer that to next month. And agenda item number 10, we already had general discussion items, at least one of those. If anyone has other general discussion items you'd like to bring up, this would be the time to do that.
This is Warren, just one related to the underground storage systems, CMP tanks in particular. We had a presentation recently on a coating system, a structural coating system is more of a rehab to these CMP tank failures that we've been experiencing. It was a good good presentation, and we are going to allow that option for rehabbing. Obviously, it can be used for many types of coatings within those CMP systems. If it's a complete failure, that's going to have to be replaced, obviously. But it was, if there's interest in that as a presentation here in the future, that I could send Gordon the information.
Thank you, Warren. I don't want to speak for everybody else. It sounds like we've got a potential case coming up for underground storage tanks, and perhaps once that case is presented and comes to the committee, then a presentation at that time might be more efficient as we're actively reviewing a proposed case of that nature.
Yeah, and this is specifically for rehabilitation of those CMP tank systems, not necessarily related to the new types of underground systems, I think, that will be coming out of outside right away.
Sure. And at this time, I don't think we have we don't have a detail for underground storage tanks or a specification for it. Once we're entertaining that to be added either to a supplemental document, as the case may be, I think that would be a great time to also look at rehabilitation.
Perfect.
I will send a note to Keith Kesty to contact you, Warren, on that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. One last item is I had been asked about maybe asking some input from everyone on the new Build America, Buy America, BABA, that is now in effect. I don't think we have in MAG anything about Buy America, but there's the new Build America, Buy America. So there's some questions about that have come out. Obviously applies to federal projects, but just some, if there's anyone out there that's experienced this or has some expertise in this, I'd be interested in talking to you.
Okay, so if anyone is familiar with that and wants to reach out to Warren, we'd appreciate that. Okay, let's go on to agenda item number 11, our staff report. And there's a couple items on here. Gordon, if you will go ahead.
Thank you. I'll keep this brief since we're running pretty long. Everyone should have received their 2023 revision update packet in the mail. If for some reason you didn't get one and you need one, please contact me. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and that Peter had kind of hinted about, was during the outside right-of-way meeting, we were talking about promoting the work that was done on the landscaping and irrigation cases that passed MAG last year. And Ann Reichman of ASU was created kind of a press release to advertise it to some of her members and some of the landscaping group. And I took kind of the basics from her press release and talked to some people who were involved here and created a news item for the MAG website that's kind of more of general interest. So if you were to go to the MAG website today, it's featured on our homepage. There's an article here called Sustainability, Key and Latest Guidelines for Public Works Construction. So I worked with one of our writers here, and they wanted to kind of focus on the sustainable aspect as kind of a hook to get a general audience more interested in it. But it talks about how all the new landscaping and irrigation specifications and details that were completely revised, and all the new details are now available, and how they can help, create a more sustainable, greener environment. And it also includes links to the specifications themselves. So if you are your landscaping groups, you may want to share this article. Let them know that even landscaping companies who want to have all these new details available, they're all in the update packet since they were all passed last year. You know, they could just get the update packet and have everything they need. There were quotes from Ryan and Peter and Wayne and Ann, who all contributed and reviewed it. So I appreciate their contributions as well. You can share it on Facebook, Twitter, whatever, email it to people. So trying to get a little bit of promotion that we can. And if you want to share it, feel free.
And thank you, Gordon, for the work and effort that you put into that. I know that took quite a bit of time and effort, and anytime we can advertise the good things we're doing as part of this committee and let people know of the updates and encourage people to utilize those and know where to access them, I think that's a great supporting effort. So thank you for your time on that.
Thank you, Gordon. And I guess next step is to get some encouragement from above for all of us out there that still have a number of supplements that would be nice to remove in favor of these new details.
Yeah, that's a huge part of the goal here as we update and adopt details and standards, is hopefully we can simplify and reduce repetitive elements or items that are minorly different but don't need to be, that we could all reference MAG. I think it's better for the industry as a whole. So that's a good comment, Warren. We'll move on to agenda item number 12, request for future agenda items, and open it up to the group for any requests. And I think I heard Peter request a discussion item on perhaps the format and name of a future document to support the right-of-way standard details and specifications. I think he requested that as an agenda
Correct.
item for next month.
Yes.
So we'll make that a formal agenda item. Are there any other requests? Okay. And final agenda item number 13, comments from the committee. This is an opportunity for any committee members to present a brief summary of any current events or other discussion items. Okay, hearing none, thank you everyone for your time today. Appreciate it. And we'll go ahead and adjourn. Thank you.